The Northwest Territories' Arctic coastline. From the hamlet of Paulatuk on the shores of Darnley Bay to the smoking hills of the Cape Bathurst Peninsula and the iconic community of Tuktoyaktuk. Exploring life in one of Canada's most remote towns.
We're 124 degrees west and 69 degrees north.
Tuktoyaktuk's mysterious sod houses.
This type of house was adopted from the Vikings. I can't really explain it any other way than that.
And fishing for survival in Canada's north.
Without the waterways here, I don't think we'd be able to survive as we do today.
Now, we reveal the secrets of Canada's northern boundary. More than 160,000 kilometers of Arctic frontier. Canada, over the edge. On the upper edge of the North American mainland, the Northwest Territories' Arctic coastline is one of the most remote regions on Earth. It is a rugged marine frontier. Lined by scenic rolling hills and endless glaciated plains. And this Arctic coast marks the northern tip of a vast region of Canada known as the Barren Lands. The Barren Lands measure more than 1 million square kilometers. 10% of Canada's entire landmass. Or the size of France and Spain combined. Amazingly, the Barren Lands are mostly uninhabited, with one of the lowest population densities on the planet. But even here, in this far corner of Canada's north, a brave and hardy few have thrived for generations. This is the Hamlet of Paulatuk, located on the shores of Darnley Bay, and one of Canada's most remote communities. The closest major centers here are Yellowknife, some 900 kilometers to the southeast, or the town of Inuvik, 400 kilometers west. And Paulatuk's closest neighbor is the hamlet of Tuktoyaktuk, a short plane ride, or long snow machine ride away. With no summer roads to the outside world, Paulatuk is only accessible by sea or air. Today, Paulatuk is a vibrant community, home to just over 300 people. But the history of civilization here stretches back decades, with the word Paulatuk meaning place of coal. Stories say when local Inuit discovered coal in the nearby smoking hills, they used it to heat their tents. Upon seeing the soot it created, an old woman left her tent and exclaimed, "Paulatuk." It would mark the beginning of a long legacy.
My name is Ray Rubin. I'm the mayor of the Hamlet of Paulatuk, and I'm also the vice president of the Paulatuk Hunters and Trappers Committee. Paulatuk is in the northwest area of northern Canada. We're 124 degrees west and 69 degrees north on the map.
While the official community of Paulatuk was not incorporated until 1987, the region has been home to the Inuvialuit peoples, or Western Arctic Inuit, for much longer.
Back in the 19th century, people came through this area to hunt in the summertime. They'd be fishing along the coast. They'd go into the places where the char running up. The fall time also, they'd go inland and hunt caribou in the area.
Mayor Ray Rubin can trace his family's history to some of those early settlers.
Well, people came around from the Mackenzie Delta in Inuvik and the Klavik area. They'd move around a lot. The main family group, we drifted over east from the Alaska side. My grandfather was from Kotzebue, Alaska. He came over on a caribou herding they were doing in the early 1900s. They ended up in this place, and it was an excellent place to get all your needs, all your wildlife, all your fish, caribou, geese.
Rubin says a permanent community was not fully established until the 1960s.
My father lobbied to get this place established until finally in 1964-65, the government established this place as a settlement.
And while Ray Rubin can trace his ancestry back to Alaska, generations later, he says Paulatuk will always be home.
Well, being born in the area here, it's home. We're keeping busy with the season. We provide as much recreational activities as we can for the people that gather and socialize. Yeah, there's a whole new nightlife if you go out and check it out.
Beyond Paulatuk, we explore the community's coastal surroundings, tracing the perimeter of Darnley Bay. "30 kilometers to the northeast, we reach the Brock River Lagoon and the Brock River beyond. The Brock River extends more than 100 kilometers inland to Tuktoyaktuk National Park and the peaks of the Melville Hills. And as the land elevation rises, winter conditions quickly set in. Back to the coast, and just outside Paulatuk, the Hornaday River Delta marks our approach to another incredible waterway. The Hornaday River is more than 300 kilometers long, lined by tundra and sparse Arctic vegetation. And like the Brock River to the east, higher inland altitudes lead to icy conditions. Finally, beyond one jagged rock wall, we experience one of the true wonders of the region. This is Lonier Falls, a majestic Arctic cascade. Here, the waters of the Hornaday flow over spectacular sandstone and limestone canyon walls, deep in the Arctic wilderness. The site has been well known to Inuit for generations and documented by early European explorers. Incredibly, Lonier Falls is as high as a 6-story building, with 50 cubic meters of water per second flowing over the edge. Back to the Arctic coast, more pristine waters line the horizon. And here, as we descend from the interior, snow and ice are replaced by the tundra of the northern barren lands. This is the western edge of Darnley Bay, located just outside the hamlet of Paulatuk. It is a scenic, sheltered waterway and a lifeblood for generations of Paulatuk residents.
So we're situated on the Arctic coast, and we depend heavily on the The waters around us, not only the ocean, the Arctic Ocean, but the lakes inland. Now it's fishing time. People are out in the river now getting fish and char. It's just, you follow the season and you get what you can for the winter. Without the waterways here, I don't think we'd be able to survive as we do today.
Mayor Ray Rubin says Darnley Bay and the waters surrounding offer prime fishing locations with plenty of fish to choose from. Today, he's heading to a location he's depended on for years.
You can catch, 60 to 80 fish a day for the winter time to stock up. In July, we're fishing along the coast. As long as the ice stays in the area, the char, and for the most part, the big whitefish are along the coastline. Another opportunity is after freeze-up, we set nets under the ice along the river system and get our fish that way, because you don't really have to wait for the weather. With the boat, you can get stranded.
Rubin says the unique conditions and change of seasons make this a perfect spot.
Sometime late May, the coast in here starts melting. So when it opens up enough and the ice is freed up around and the coastline is open, we come out in the points here and set nets. As long as the ice is moving around here, the char and the whitefish are in the area, and there's a lot of them. But one spring I was set up in the next point out, and I caught about 60 char.
Rubin and his son begin casting their nets. It seems like a simple operation. A single wooden post, a gill net, and years of experience. They will leave their nets overnight, returning tomorrow to collect the catch. And while the food they gather will be crucial for winter survival, there is even more at stake. Fishing here is a family affair.
I grew up that way, helping my dad, and a lot of it is hands-on. That's how we learn. With my boys now, and setting nets, telling them what to do and how to do things. I know when my dad started, I was active, I was young, like my son is now. A lot of things I can't do like I did when I did 30 years ago, and now they're taking that role where we've left off. And so a lot of the things here I'm doing, he'll do on his own as he moves on and then starts a family.
Continuing west to the edge of Darnley Bay, we reach the Perry Peninsula. Here, we explore an even more remote region in Canada's north. Named for Arctic explorer William Perry, the Perry Peninsula is a vast open frontier at the northernmost reaches of the Barren Lands. The peninsula is surrounded by Darnley Bay to the east, Amundsen Gulf to the north, and Franklin Bay to the west. On all sides, jagged cliffs and sea caves stretch as far as the eye can see. And while the Perry Peninsula is uninhabited, there are signs of human activity from long ago. Leddy Harbor was the site of a Hudson's Bay Company trading post, established in 1930. The post served as a base for fur traders in the region, but lasted just 7 years, proving too remote to sustain constant trade. The site was reopened in the 1950s to serve as a trading post for Inuit in the region. But it was shut again a decade later. Today, despite the elements, Leddy Harbor's buildings still stand. Further, in the distance, we see more signs of human activity on approach to the northern extremity of the Perry Peninsula. Here, on the headland known as Cape Perry, a distant early warning station, or DEW station, is a harsh reminder of the Cold War era. This radar station was one of dozens built in the 1950s, all across northern Canada. They were strategically placed along the 69th parallel and spaced roughly 150 kilometers apart. For years, these DEW stations were home to dozens of military and government officials, charged with detecting the movements of the Soviet military. In the years since, the DEW line has been dismantled. Today, the Cape Perry facility continues to operate as a weather station. ground, Cape Perry marks the northernmost point of the Perry Peninsula. Featuring rugged limestone cliffs rising 20 meters above the roaring Arctic seas. Heading west from Cape Perry, the waters of Franklin Bay lead to another pristine peninsula. The Cape Bathurst Peninsula extends 100 kilometers north, a vast expanse of sandy beaches lined by low rolling hills. In the summer sun, it is a scenic wonder. But for much of the year, the Cape Bathurst Peninsula is buried in snow and ice. And despite the elements, the Cape Bathurst Peninsula is also a natural wonder. Its unique ecosystem is home to rare plant life, including a flower known as the hairy brea, not found anywhere else on Earth. Further north on the peninsula, sandy beaches are replaced by snowy peaks, and rare plant life is replaced by incredible animal life. Here, Arctic coastal grizzly bears are one of the few animals that brave these conditions. Their territory is vast, lining the Arctic coasts from Inuvik to the Coppermine River. Northern grizzlies are an incredible sight, measuring roughly 1.8 meters in length and weighing up to 300 kilograms. And here, in the remote northern reaches of the Barren Lands, grizzlies are scavengers, eating berries, sedges, lemmings, and squirrels. Even surviving on frozen moose or sheep carcasses throughout the long winters. In total, the Northwest Territories is home to between 4,000 and 5,000 of these majestic creatures. And not far away, the Cape Bathurst Peninsula is home to another land mammal, the muskox. The muskox is a hardy, resilient creature, the only high Arctic mammal that doesn't require shelter during fierce Arctic storms. Along with its inner wool lining, the animal is protected by a shaggy coat and an outer layer of long guard hairs that swing with the rhythm of the muskox's every move. Continuing north, we cross the 70th parallel. And here, from high above, we encounter an incredible geological phenomenon. These are the Smoking Hills. The Smoking Hills mark one of northern Canada's most unique features. They are vast deposits of shale and sulfur that spontaneously combust as the hillsides erode. It is a phenomenon known to Inuit for generations, and one that was observed by the first European explorers. The Smoking Hills can be seen for kilometers. Amazingly, experts believe they have been burning for centuries and will continue for centuries to come. The Cape Bathurst Peninsula is a vast palette of northern beauty. From snow-covered hills to pristine waterways. Heading west, we meet the contours of the Horton River. This winding waterway measures more than 600 kilometers and is considered the northernmost navigable river on the North American continent. Further, on approach to the western boundary of the peninsula, snow-covered tundra leads to northern Canada's spectacular fall colors. "20 kilometers further, beyond the Cape Bathurst Peninsula, we soar above another iconic river in Canada's north. The Anderson River originates in the Great Bear Lake region. For nearly 700 kilometers, it twists and turns, all the way to its outflow at Wood Bay, a sheltered pocket of the Arctic Ocean. It is a pristine waterway and also a protected haven for wildlife. Anderson River Delta Bird Sanctuary is home to multiple bird species, including shorebirds, raptors, songbirds, and this flock of snow geese. In total, the Anderson River Delta Bird Sanctuary measures more than 750 square kilometers. Continuing west, we encounter another unique landscape. Unlike the Cape Bathurst Peninsula, the Anderson River region was covered in a vast sheet of ice during the last ice age. Scientists believe that ice carved out long, narrow chunks of land. And as the glacial waters melted, they left behind a series of uniquely shaped lakes. They are known as the Eskimo Lakes, separated by skeletal strips of tundra, known as the Fingerlands. And surrounding the lakes, ice movement in the region has created another geographic phenomenon. Pingos are unique to the region surrounding the community of Tuktoyaktuk. Like the ethereal shapes and designs that cover much of the Arctic tundra, Pingos are the result of permafrost, continuously frozen ground covered by an active layer of soil that freezes and thaws. Pingos are formed as that frozen tundra is pushed upwards by water pressure from underground. Pingos can take decades, even centuries to form, and are a unique feature in the Tuktoyaktuk region. Set on the shores of the Mackenzie River Delta, the community of Tuktoyaktuk is one of northern Canada's best-known communities. But for many, it is known only by its iconic name. Like many northern communities, that name derives from an ancient story.
My name is John Steen. I'm a tour guide here in Tuktoyaktuk, Northwest Territories. Tuktoyaktuk, that's the English pronunciation of our community. We pronounce it Tuktoyaktuk, which means resembling a caribou. How the legend goes of how we got our name is that a hunting party that was coming to this area, they picked up an elderly lady with them at one time and they brought her here, and then they told her, when we get there, don't look at the caribou. So when she got here, she peeked through her hands and looked, and then when she did that, she turned the caribou into stone. So nowadays, at the far end of the community, when the tides are low, you'll see rocks sticking out of the harbor, which resemble a caribou.
But today, John Steen says the community once known only by name is slowly becoming known by reputation, drawing visitors from around the world.
Our population here is about 950 people, which is about 80% Inuvialuit people. There's a lot of amazing things to see here. This peninsula that we live on extends for 100 miles northeast. It's really unique.
Steen says any tour of Tuktoyaktuk must start with the lifeblood of the community. He begins at the western edge of town.
Welcome to the Arctic Ocean. This particular part of the Arctic Ocean is not very deep. From here to the Mackenzie River is only about 12 feet deep. It's very muddy, of course, from all the silt that's coming down the Mackenzie River, and it's very diluted too, so it's not so salty. From all the fresh water coming down the Mackenzie River. And also, though, this part of the Arctic Ocean is not very cold also, because it's very shallow. It's warmed by the 24-hour daylight. We're situated on the farthest point of North America and the farthest point you can drive on the mainland, so it's really quite unique exactly where we are.
Next, on Tuk's eastern shore, Steen reveals a magnificent recreation. Huts built by the early Inuvialuit peoples that hold a stunning similarity to those built by the Vikings.
The Inuvialuit would build something like this in this area where there's lots of wood and abundance of sod, where, I imagined this type of house was adopted from the Vikings, even though there's very little documentation of them being in this particular area of the north. Nobody knows for sure if it's actually, they've been adopted from the Vikings, but I imagine, it has been, because I can't really explain it any other way than that, because if you take a look at them, there's some houses like this in Newfoundland and on Greenland also. Okay, this is the interior of the sod house. This area would be the fire pit area, and then the areas for sleeping quarters and living quarters. People living in stuff like this in the late 1800s, early 1900s. A size like this, I imagine, you could fit a couple of families easy.
Finally, at the northern edge of town, Steen reveals Tuktoyaktuk's unique location, the first or last stop on one of Canada's great trails.
This is our last stop on the tour. This here is the Trans-Canada Trail monument. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Trans-Canada Trail, it's a recreational trail that spreads across Canada, right from St. John's, Newfoundland, representing the Atlantic Ocean, and right to Victoria, BC, representing the Pacific, and here in Tuktoyaktuk, representing the Arctic Ocean. A trail that runs for 17,000 kilometers. So if you're here, it is of a significance that you should actually take a picture of it or get your picture taken with it.
John Steen has traveled throughout the north, and he's guided hundreds of visitors to Tuk. He believes there is magic in this community.
What makes it so great here is the people, the culture. Everybody knows everybody here in a small community. A lot of people live off the land here. A large part of my family is here, and the freedom, you know, just the pure freedom you have and the fresh air you have. You don't, you know, especially this time of year when you get the 24-hour sunlight, and you almost, you lose the clock, so to speak. It's just the way of life, people up here that's we love so much, I guess.
From the friendly hamlet of Paulatuk and the shores of Darnley Bay to the remote peninsulas and stunning capes of this northern shoreline, to the Eskimo Lakes and interior waters of the Anderson River Delta region, the Northwest Territories' Arctic coast is a mix of natural life and natural wonders. With a Cold War legacy just decades old, an Inuit cultural timeline stretching back centuries, and geological phenomena dating back even further. The story of this region can be told through the voices of its people. And through a magnificent landscape holding secrets that continue to be revealed. Here on the edge of Canada.